all those plans. The difference between us here at Travel Insurance Center and squaremouth.com is we answer the phones and you can speak to a human being and ask questions. So I guess the first thing that I'll cover here, just to captivate my audience and make sure everybody's listening, Medicare is for U.S. citizens on U.S. soil. Uncle Sam is not there for you once you cross that imaginary line that we call the border. So travel insurance is extremely important for all ages, but especially anybody who is on Medicare. But Mark, what about if we have a Medicare supplement plan? That is good to have in addition to, but not instead of, and I will tell you why. A Medicare supplement plan will provide you with a one-time lifetime $50,000 benefit. But if you were, let's say you're going to Italy, you got injured, you've got a $50,000 medical bill. A $50,000 medical bill on your Medicare supplement plan is going to cost you a $250 deductible and it's a 80/20 copay. So a $50,000 medical bill in a foreign country, your out of pocket will be $10,250. If you have a legitimate travel insurance plan, anything that I would be recommending to you, it would cost you $0, zero deductible, zero copay. And the main thing that I want to make sure you understand is that with Medicare and sup plans, that does not include emergency evacuation. And emergency evacuation is just a fancy name for ambulance service. That could be on land or air, depending upon the severity of what has happened. Let's go ahead and go down the go down like okay. Travel insurance plans. A basic or any type of travel insurance plan is going to have the key features on here.
Sorry, Mark, are you sharing your PowerPoint right now? Because we
I
don't,
am. Can you
no,
not see it?
we don't see your PowerPoint yet, Mark.
I'm sorry. Let me you know what? Let me
I
swap.
see it online here.
Yeah, it
Oh,
just
maybe
updated.
it's my view.
I see it also.
Okay.
I
I
apologize.
see it
It's my
too.
view.
I see
Good.
it. And
No
Mark,
worries.
one thing about the past question is the supplement only covers if Medicare would have covered. Is that correct?
The supplement is going to be for just that. It's a supplement.
Right.
Medicare is for U.S. citizens on U.S.
Only,
soil.
right.
When
Yeah.
you get the supplement, it's meant to be to help cover you while you travel internationally. But like I said, it's a one-time, lifetime $50,000 benefit. So if you go to Italy this year, use it, now you're done. But like I said, there is a $250 deductible and there is a copay. But with a travel insurance plan, you don't have to use your one-time lifetime benefit. And we'll also get into the fact that the difference of between a primary insurance plan or a secondary insurance plan or first payer and excess. Highly recommend anytime my clients get coverage, I always choose primary coverage first payer because that way, if you have this insurance plan, if something does occur while you're traveling, you don't need to use your one-time lifetime benefit. Now the first payer will the insurance plan will pay for the bills and then you get to reserve your emergency fund through your Medicare or your Advantage plan. You get to reserve that for what it's intended to be. It's an emergency reserve. So if you buy first payer or primary insurance, there are no fingers to be pointed. If something happens on the trip, the insurance company that you purchase the plan is going to pay the bills. If you buy secondary coverage or excess coverage, a scenario is you got injured in Italy, you're now in the hospital, you got the bill, you got sent back home. Now, in order on a secondary insurance plan, if you want your bills paid for, everything and anything has to be proven that somebody else isn't going to pay for it first. So in the example of a medical bill, Now you have to, if you buy a secondary plan, you're going to have to fill out the claim form, and they're going to require that you write a letter to Uncle Sam, the U.S. government, and you're going to have to get a declination letter from Uncle Sam saying that they're not going to pay it because you didn't have coverage. This will take anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks to even get that letter back. And then after you have a declination letter, then the insurance company will review and pay the bill. But if you have primary coverage, that is not required. The same scenario is if you had lost, damage, or stolen luggage. If it's a secondary plan, you fill out the claim form, they're going to make you reach out to your homeowner's insurance policy and get a declination letter proving that your homeowner's insurance will not pay for this. After you get the declination letter, then the insurance will kick in on a secondary plan. If you buy primary, the insurance company just pays it because they're primary and it's first payer and there's nobody else to point the finger at. So it's very important about when you're navigating and picking out plans, understanding what you're purchasing and what the responsibilities are and the implications of what's going to happen there. So trip cancellation is exactly like it sounds. I'm just going to stick with the Italy situation. You're planning a trip to Italy. You're spending about $10,000 a person in non-refundable trip costs. You want to get the insurance to make sure that if something were to occur, you got COVID, uh, you have a family member that was in the hospital, you had a family member who has passed, you get called for jury duty, there's a union strike with the airlines, there's a natural disaster, there's a hurricane down in the Caribbean, whatever. I mean, as far as where you're going, whether that be at your house or at your travel destination, if there's an emergency and now you cannot go on this trip, if you have a trip cancellation travel insurance plan, instead of losing all of your money, which the tour providers, the airlines, everybody, if you cancel last minute because there's an emergency, they're going to keep your money whether you go or not. But if you have it insured, you get all your non-refundable trip costs back, and then you just simply reschedule when you can. Trip interruption is for when you're on the trip. You're either sitting in the plane or you're at your destination. Let's say you're going to Italy. You've arrived at your destination, you check into the hotel, you went out for dinner, you went to bed, you wake up the next morning, you're on day 2 of a 12-day trip, and suddenly you get an emergency phone call from back home. There's an emergency back home. Mom fell down. One of your kids had a car accident. There was a natural disaster, a hurricane or a tornado back home, whatever, floods, whatever. There's an emergency and you have to interrupt your trip short to go back home and take care of business. Trip interruption will provide you with coverage for, let's say, on days 2, 3, 4, 5, and beyond. All the things that you paid for but didn't get to do, now you get reimbursed for those things with trip interruption. Trip delay. That's the scenario where you're on your way either to or from your trip. Many of us have connecting flights. You get to the airport, you're waiting for your next flight. Now you find out that your plane has been delayed by several hours or sometimes until the very next day. You arrive at 7 p.m. and there's that plane you were supposed to get on in the next hour. It's not going to be there till tomorrow morning. Well, now the only thing you've got on you is the clothes on your back and your personal item that's in the plane. Trip delay features in a travel insurance plan are going to allow you to go get things that you need. Now, with a trip delay, many of them will come with anywhere from $150 to $300 a day. So now you have benefits to be able to run down to the store. You can buy a toothbrush, toothpaste, a hairbrush, clean clothes, things like that. It's going to help you secure a hotel room. The trip delay features will be the difference of whether or not you need to sleep on the floor or in a chair at the airport, or you have benefits to go get a hotel room and then just sleep it over and then go back to the hotel the next day and catch the plane when it's going to be back there. Baggage loss is exactly like it sounds. You arrive to Italy and you're standing at the carousel and you're watching everybody grab their bags and yours does not come out on that carousel. You go and speak to the representative and they can't find your bag. Travel insurance will cover usually anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 on to include the loss of your luggage, the contents inside there, and now you can go and replace the items that you need to continue on with your trip. Baggage delay is just like it sounds. This is the scenario where you get there, you're at the carousel, everybody's picked up their luggage, yours didn't show up. You go and talk to the representative at the counter. They're showing that your bag was not scanned. It's still at your original airport. It's not going to be here until tomorrow. That's also a scenario where you've only got the clothes on your back, all the things that were in your luggage, swimsuit, whatever. That's all back home yet. And it's not going to be here till tomorrow or the next day. You have benefits to be able to go and get extra clothing, the items that you need to make sure that you're covered until your bag arrives. The next two are by far the most important part of a travel insurance plan: international medical coverage and emergency medical evacuation. Typically, a travel insurance plan will come. I would recommend when traveling internationally. I don't think you can really have too much medical coverage, but typically a good travel insurance plan will have a minimum of $100,000 medical coverage. Some of the other ones for just a few dollars more, you can have $250,000 of emergency medical coverage for while you're traveling. So your bills are taken care of if something happens while traveling. Emergency medical evacuation is extremely important because whether you are on Medicare with a supplement, you do not have emergency medical evacuation, which is just a fancy name for ambulance coverage. I have seen many times where this feature here has saved people from completely being financially wiped out. It doesn't matter how comfortable you are. You could be worth millions, but an unexpected bill for $300,000 is a horrific event, regardless of how comfortable you are. And I've seen them get into hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's say you're on I won't mention names, but recently within the last couple of months, one of my clients went to South Africa, went on safari. Everything went on fine with that safari. They also did one of the excursions, went and wanted to see the beautiful Victoria Falls down in South Africa. They go to the falls. She wanted to catch that perfect photo. She stepped on a mossy rock, slipped down into a ravine, and now she's at the bottom of the ravine. Broke her leg in two spots. Bone is sticking out of the leg, the whole works. They had to call in a helicopter to go get her with the little what's that, the little bunk bed thing that they lower down and lower down. And they get her up and pull her in, and they take her to Johannesburg Hospital. Johannesburg does not have the equipment to deal with her since her bone is sticking out of her leg. So they put her in another flight and sent her to Cairo, Egypt, where that was the nearest facility where they could deal with a compound fracture. After they got her stabilized, patched up her leg, she's now in a cast, everything's back in there to her, and then a week later she's sent home, and she was sent home special flight because now she's got to be laid out. You can't get on a commercial flight. After everything was said and done, a simple taking a photo on a mossy rock, at the end, when everything was said and done, the bill was $330,000. She did not have to pay a single penny because she had insurance to cover that situation. Without insurance, $330,000 just for those flights and then the medical bills. So it is extremely important when traveling internationally, make sure you have medical coverage and emergency evacuation. I do understand that I am biased because I'm an insurance agent, but at the same time, I've been in this business long enough. I feel like most of the reason why I am biased is because I've literally heard every scenario as to what could happen before the trip and what makes you cancel. I've heard what has happened on the trip. that ends up meaning you need trip interruption and you need medical coverage, and it ends up getting very serious very quickly. So do not be traveling without it. It's too affordable to go without it. It's extremely important. All right. When it comes to trip cancellation, there's typically 3 different types of tiers where you can get trip cancellation. A standard travel plan will come with the standard written reasons, which you'll see in the certificate when anytime you look in the paperwork and look at the reasons. A typical travel plan will have anywhere from 12 to 30 standard written reasons, and they do cover the basics depending upon the plan that you choose. But yes, I'm sick, my travel companion is sick, one of my kids are sick, one of my parents are sick, family members, you know, a niece or a nephew got in a car accident last night. These are typically included in a standard travel insurance plan, a quality one. You can go up from there, and it's a time sensitive thing. In order to get these next two, you have to get the insurance right after you book the trip. There's cancel for work reasons. That's the scenario where you've been granted permission by your job to take this trip. You booked the trip, and now due to work reasons, your job is now telling you, no, we can't have you go. We're too busy now. They've revoked your permission. If you have cancel for work reasons, this is now covered. The next tier up is cancel for any reason, and that's literally like it sounds. Cancel for any reason. This is phenomenal for cases to where, let's say you've been in a relationship and you've been living with somebody for 12 years, but you are not married. You do not have a domestic partnership. There's no certificates. There's no documentation to show that you are married, but this person, you treat each other like you're married and you live together and you have no intentions on going on the trip without the other one. Cancel for any reason is a very good one for that. And also, there is not an insurance plan on the planet that is going to protect you from war. Ever since World War II, war has been forbidden to be insured. You can't insure against that. But cancel for any reason allows us to get around that. So if you're taking a trip, let's say to Poland, or a trip that's going to be around the Ukraine, Russia type of area, and if you don't trust what Putin's doing, the only way that you can really protect yourself to make sure that you're covered if there's a scenario where something breaks out and spreads out, you can get canceled for any reason, and this will allow us to cancel the trip without using the word war. You can just simply say, I no longer feel like going, and you'd still have coverage. Now, the key on cancel for any reason, we have to purchase the insurance right after you book the trip. And specifically, we want to do that within 21 days. On day 22, cancel for any reason is no longer available. There's not an insurance company on the planet who will allow you to get canceled for any reason after 22 days. So I cannot encourage you more. If you know you're going on the trip and you know you need insurance, do not hesitate. Book it right after you book your trip. Lock in the best rate possible you can with the insurance. Keep your eligibility for cancel for any reason if you choose to do so. But most importantly, and this one's a big one, if you purchase the insurance right after you book the trip, any type of plan that I would recommend to you is automatically going to grant you a pre-existing medical condition waiver. That is a huge benefit that you do not want to take for granted. The pre-existing medical condition waiver means that in the insurance company's eyes, you do not have pre-existing conditions. So that means that if you need to cancel your trip, because I don't know, let's say you have leukemia and you may need to have treatments 6 months from now, but you don't know how this bone marrow transplant is going to do. You don't know that. If you book the insurance and you get the pre-existing medical condition waiver, you can cancel your trip due to this condition that you already know you have, if you have that waiver. If you do not have the waiver, they are going to see that as a pre-existing medical condition, and they are not going to give you the ability to cancel that because you knew this was an issue when you booked the trip. You knew it was an issue when you bought the insurance. But if you have the waiver, it's waived. Now, this waiver extends both to you, your travel companion, your parents, your kids. If you have the waiver, all pre-existing medical conditions are waived. So if you needed to cancel your trip because you have a special needs child, if you have the waiver, you're still on the table. If you do not have the waiver, they're going to see it differently. So you trying to cancel your trip due to a condition from one of your parents or one of your kids, that's going to change things. Having that pre-X waiver is extremely valuable. This goes for not only cancellation before you've left if you have to cancel your trip, but while you're on the trip. If you need to seek medical help while you're on your trip in another country, if you have that waiver, those bills are going to get paid. If you do not have the waiver, the insurance company may think differently as far as willing to pay that bill that you needed to see medical help in another country for a condition that you had prior to going on to this trip. So keep that in mind. The booking the travel insurance right after you've booked the trip is extremely important and valuable. Let's talk about trip interruption. Like I said, this is when you're on the trip. You're already at your destination. You're on day 2. Somebody calls you from back home and says, hey, mom's not doing well. You need to come home. The family's in chaos. You need to interrupt your trip short. Standard reasons are up to 150% of your trip costs. So if you were to insure a $10,000 trip, now you've got 150% of that to deal with. Now the insurance company fully realizes the airline tickets that you purchased 6 months in advance are one price. The airline tickets that when you go to the airport and you tell them, I need on the next plane out of here, those tickets are substantially higher than the ones you bought in advance. So a good or just an average travel insurance plan with trip interruption, they redeem you at 150% to help offset those extra costs that you will incur because now you need to buy a last minute plane ticket to get back home and take care of business. Interruption for any reason coincides with cancellation cut for any reason. So generally speaking, if you purchase cancellation for any reason, it comes with interruption for any reason. It's the same way. If you have a reason that doesn't fall within the standard cancellation reasons, if you have cancellation for any reason, you can cancel for any reason. Interruption for any reason is the same way. It doesn't have to necessarily be one of those pre-approved cancellation or interruption reasons. Interruption for any reason is just that. Maybe you have a second cousin who is very near and dear to you, but a standard plan is not going to cover issues with your second cousin. But if you have interruption or cancellation for any reason, then you start having special scenarios to where virtually anything and everything is covered. Again, in order to be eligible for cancel or interruption for any reason, we must purchase the insurance right after your booking date within 21 days. Then we are eligible to get this type of coverage. Trip delay is the daily benefit for additional trip costs incurred for things like hotels and transfers. Like I said, you're there, the airplane has been delayed, it's not going to be here for several hours. If you have trip delay coverage, this allows the ability to where you can go get a hotel room and sleep in a bed tonight instead of sitting upright at the airport under blankets or laying on the floor. Baggage loss and baggage delay, fairly self-explanatory. Baggage loss is when it's completely gone. They have not found it. Baggage delay is They see that it was scanned at the last airport, but it somehow, some way, it didn't make it on the plane. That's the difference between baggage loss and baggage delay. One is gone and they haven't found it. They can't even scan it. They don't know. Baggage delay is they know where it's at, but it's not here and it's not going to be here till tomorrow. A typical travel insurance plan is going to cover both outpatient and inpatient care. I think that's fairly self-explanatory. An inpatient means you had to stay. Outpatient is you don't. If you go into a hospital and you broke your finger, the whole point of a travel insurance plan is they want to get you back on your trip as soon as possible. So if you go in with a broken finger, they're going to patch you up, maybe throw a stint on it, and they're going to give you the bill, pay the bill, and put you back on your trip. You do not want to sit at the hospital for 2 to 3 days while the insurance company and the hospital work out their billing system. So they'll give you the bill, put it on your card. Then when you get home, you'll file a claim and get reimbursed. Inpatient care, generally speaking, if you go with the right plan and the right companies, oftentimes when you're inpatient and you have to stay there, oftentimes the insurance company is going to take over and deal directly with the hospital administrator, and they will do a billing in the background and not even put you in. You won't even be a part of that. With there's a good handful of companies that will just do that for you. Does your current medical plan cover international travel? If not, you will need medical when you leave the country. I will tell you, I work for an insurance company, and my health insurance that is provided here at my company, I don't have international medical coverage. Most people do not. And most people have to find out the hard way. You're in another country, something happened, you give them your insurance card and they say, well, this is invalid. And now you have to pay everything out of pocket. Most people do not have international medical coverage. And if you're on Medicare, you most definitely do not. It's for U.S. citizens on U.S. soil. And like I said, a supplement plan will provide you with some very minimal coverage, but they do not provide emergency evacuation coverage. So travel insurance is extremely important when you're leaving the country. When you're on a trip, if you have a serious medical situation and need to be sent to a more suitable medical facility or all the way back home, these are different types of scenarios. I talked about the lady in South Africa at the Victoria Falls. With the proper insurance plan, it will include you getting all the way home. I need to make sure everybody in this meeting today understands the difference between a legitimate standalone travel insurance plan and the typical insurance plan that when you just check the box at you booked a cruise and they ask you, do you want cancellation coverage? And you check that box. I highly advise you want to investigate further before you just buy that insurance plan from the cruise provider, from your tour provider. If you're renting an Airbnb or a Vrbo, before you check that box, you want to read the certificate. I can tell you right now, 9.5 out of 10 cruise companies that when you check that box, they allow for one evacuation. So you're on the cruise, you're on the boat, you're out in international waters, you slipped and fell on next to the deck by the pool, you bumped your head. The nurse on the boat says, look, you need to go see a doctor. They're going to call in the helicopter. They're going to take you to the nearest land site. The insurance you bought from the cruise, they're now done with you. They evacuated you off the boat from, let's say you're in the Bahamas. They flew you in up to land. Now you're in one of the Bahamian hospitals. The insurance company that you bought from the cruise company, they're now done with you. They've evacuated you off the boat. You are at a hospital, but now it is your responsibility to get home. Any type of insurance plan that is going to be worth a darn, they will specifically tell you in the paperwork, this gets you all the way back home. And many of them will give you hospital of choice. So if your life is not in danger, this could be the difference of whether or not you go to an American hospital or you're in a Jamaican hospital. Differences in insurance plans will make the determination of how much treatment you get and where it's going to happen. Like I said, the lady who was in South Africa just a couple months ago, when she was done and everything, by the time she got home, the bill was $330,000. Without emergency evacuation, it gets out of hand real quick. Those planes or helicopters that they come and get you with are $22,000 an hour. That does not include the medical crew. That does not include the flight crew. The timer starts when they hit the propeller and it ends when they park it back in the original hangar. Hundreds of thousands of dollars the moment that thing is triggered. Make sure you've got a medical emergency evacuation. On this screen here, if you'd like to take an opportunity to get out your phones and take a photo here, here's an easy way to contact me. Here's my email address. I implore you all, make sure that you're fully understood about what you're buying. Make sure that the product that you are purchasing is actually doing what you need it to do. And the biggest one that I can remind you one more time, I'm going to say, if you know you're going on the trip, you know you need insurance, do not hesitate. Get a hold of me right after you book your trip. That way we can put a policy in place and we'll secure the best rate possible. We'll get the pre-existing medical condition waiver, and then we can always adjust dates later if needed. If flights change or whatever, we can always add other items on there, but it's extremely important. Make sure you book the insurance right after you book the trip and lock in all of your benefits. At this point, I will go ahead and open up if anybody has any specific questions. I know that I did have a few specific ones that were given to me. The difference between first payer and second payer, primary and secondary. I believe I covered that already. How to cover pre-existing medical conditions. That again goes with the pre-existing medical condition waiver. Make sure you've got the pre-existing medical condition waiver, and then those are covered for you. What is a pre-existing condition? That's simply anything and everything that you take medication for or you have been diagnosed for, that could potentially be a pre-existing condition in the insurance company's eyes. If you have the waiver, it's waived. It's covered for cancellation, interruption, medical coverage while you're traveling. It's extremely valuable to have that pre-X waiver. So book the insurance right after you book the trip, and then it won't be an issue. Does anybody have any specific questions?
Yeah, Mark, there's a lot of questions in the chat. Do you want me to read them to you? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, I'm not seeing that scrolling on my screen. So yeah, go ahead and hit me with some.
All right, here we go. The first question is, what happens when a couple travels under a policy and only one is ill or has a problem? Does the coverage cover both under separate or same policies?
It's a very good question, and I did not bring that up yet, but that always comes up, so I was looking forward to answering that. That's another very important aspect of your insurance. Another one, when you check that little box, when you're booking your cruise or when you just booked your airline tickets, there'll always be a spot at the bottom. They say, do you want a cancellation coverage? Yes or no, you check the box. You don't let you read a certificate or anything, and the devil is in the details, folks. Any policy that I recommend to my clients includes you and your travel companions. When you check that box on the cruise, or you check that box with the airline, it will tell you, do you want cancellation coverage, which technically is true. If Jane is sick, she can cancel. What about her husband, Robert? If you don't buy the correct insurance, Jane can cancel. Robert still needs to go on the trip because he's not sick, or you have to eat that cost. If you have a legitimate insurance plan, it covers you and your travel companion. So assuming that if the wife doesn't want to go unless you can go together, the insurance will allow both of you to cancel. You can get all your non-refundable money back and then rebook the trip when you can both go. It's It's a very good question.
Great, thank you, Mark. Next question is from Val. Will we need to have all receipts for reimbursements?
Typically, yeah, I mean, it's a leave a paper trail everywhere you go. And it's just like when you wrecked your car or something. No, they're not going to take your word on it. Insurance companies do need to document for their underwriters. So it's not like they're trying to get out of paying it, but in order to get reimbursed from the underwriter, they need to show receipts of loss. So they're going to expect you, the policy owner, to show receipts. So yes, if you need to cancel, sometimes the tour provider will refund you 25%, and then we only need to file a claim for the remaining 75%. We cannot profit from insurance, but the entire point is to get back to where you were so you do not take a loss. So yes, you fill out the claim form, submit your receipts, invoices, tour companies, cruise companies, whoever's doing that, they're all legitimate ones are giving you an invoice. You simply turn in your receipts showing what you've paid, showing what you were refunded, and the insurance company will pick up the remainder. And the goal is to get back to even. It didn't cost you. You didn't take a financial loss on this. Now you can just reschedule.
Great, thank you, Mark. The next one's specific to Nancy, but I would assume others have the similar question. So I'm going to read all of it, so stay with me. I'm 64, retired, and have a PPO 90/10 paid through work. It becomes secondary at 65. I also have dual citizenship and can live or work anywhere. Oh, I lost the question. Hold on. Work anywhere in the EU, but haven't established residency in any one country yet. Is travel insurance still needed, or does my dual citizenship cover me? Last point of this is my PPO said if I need medical treatment overseas, just bring back receipts and submit a claim. That sounds too easy.
I agree. That sound a little bit sketchy. They're automatically saying that it became secondary at 65 is what I heard. So that's just an excess plan. So you cannot count on that as your primary. You want to make sure that when you're traveling, have a primary insurance plan with a 0 deductible. She did have it she was only on a 10% copay. So that's pretty decent, but still travel insurance is too affordable to go without it. Buy primary insurance with a 0 deductible and it'll pay the bill. And if somehow, some way, miraculously, you had a bill that was higher than what your travel insurance benefits would cover, I mean, this was a catastrophic event, then you can count on your secondary insurance to kick in and help pay the difference. But you definitely want, as long as you have a U.S. residence address, you don't even have to be a citizen. As long as you have an address here in the States, I'm licensed in all 50 states and I can help we can get travel insurance as long as you have an address here in the States. If you do not have an address here in the States, I can still get health coverage and emergency evacuation for anybody anywhere in the world. But in order to get a full cancellation policy, you have to have access to some sort of U.S. residency address in order to be able to get that type of coverage.
All right, next question's from John. We put down a deposit, but not the full payment yet. When is it considered to be booked?
The day you spent your very first dollar. The day you spent your very first dollar is day one. We need to get a policy put in place before day 21. And now that's fine. Sometimes I have clients who booked it today. They're not traveling until 2027. They just had to put down a $500 deposit today, and they don't have to pay any more money until January of 2027. That's not a problem. Put the policy into place today. We'll insure the $500 deposit right now. We will lock in the best rate possible. We will get the pre-existing medical condition waiver. And then later on down the line, as you make additional payments and now you have more risk involved, we can always add on to the plan later. But regardless of how it was booked and how much you've spent, the day you spent your first dollar on the trip, that's day one. That's your booking date.
Right. We have a lot more coming. Nancy, the question from Nancy is the waiver a separate coverage or included in one of the three listed? Not sure what slide that was on, but it was on one of your slides, I think.
the waiver, the pre-existing medical condition waiver is included with many, if not most, legitimate plans that are out there. In order to get the waiver, remember, we have to put the policy into place before day 21 after your initial deposit date. You don't get a certificate per se. It's not like a piece of paper that they give you. It's just a waiver. The insurance company is acknowledging that we are going to waive any of your pre-existing medical conditions. They don't give you a certificate the way they do for your insurance. You don't get a separate piece of paper that says this is waived. Instead, inside the certificate, in the verbiage inside their contract, they will make mention of time sensitive period, and then they will say, if this plan is purchased within the time sensitive period, we will waive all pre-existing medical conditions. That's how that works.
Great. Next question from James. Does cancel for any reason coverage, including pre-existing condition waiver? You might have answered that already, but I just want to confirm.
Yes. They will go hand in hand. You can purchase, as long as you purchase the insurance right after you put your deposit and book your trip, you will get that waiver. Now, in order to be eligible to get cancel for any reason coverage, you also need to purchase the insurance within 21 days. But they often go hand in hand, but they don't have to coincide. In other words, you can buy the standard plan with the standard cancellation reasons, and you'll get that pre-X waiver along with the plan. Now, if you want to have additional coverage on your plan and you want to pay a higher, there will be a higher premium, because having the freedom to be able to say, I changed my mind, I don't want to go on this trip anymore, and still have coverage from insurance, yes, your premium is going to be higher. But yes, they go hand in hand. Both of them fall. Typically, most companies are 21 days. There's a handful of 20s, but virtually all of them are 21 days. So as long as you book the insurance, you book the trip and then get insurance, just remember, as long as you do it within 14, virtually every company on the planet is going to give you that pre-existing medical condition waiver, and then you have the eligibility. If you feel like you need cancel for any reason, you can also purchase that additional coverage.
All right, thank you. Leanne's question is, if I have an annual emergency assistant plus plan, is that sufficient for medical evacuation? It is offered as an addition through my United credit card.
Okay. Yeah, you'll want to check the amount of coverage that comes with that. There is some standalone plans out there. MediJet is a very popular brand. If you want my honest opinion, you're doubling up on coverage that it's not really sufficient, because any and every travel insurance plan is automatically going to come with medical evacuation built into it. So having a standalone Medivac plan is just doubling up and not really all that required. Some credit cards will give you some coverage on that, and as long as you're going to own that card anyway, you're no harm no foul. You can have that coverage. Now, I would recommend, if you're going to Mexico, Canada, the Caribbean, minimum you should have is 200,000 emergency evacuation. If you're expanding and you're going to South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, you shouldn't be leaving without a minimum of 500,000. Because if something were to happen and you actually need this coverage, you're going to approach that. So it's a good rule of thumb. If you're sticking around North America, don't leave without 200,000. If you're going beyond that, make sure you have 500,000. There are a lot of plans out there just automatically come with $1 million, just for peace of mind, knowing that no matter what happens, this is covered.
Great, thank you. Wendy's question is it recommended to buy travel insurance through the tour company or through an outside insurance company?
I covered that earlier. I would highly recommend that you want to do your own research or I guess you could make it really easy and get a hold of me. I've already read all the certificates. I know which companies to avoid. I know which policies have ridiculous exclusions. You definitely want to do your homework. Like I said, when you buy the insurance from your tour provider or you buy it from the cruise line, they're only offering you one plan from one company, and they've already decided that they're purchasing the insurance at wholesale. They're selling it to their clients at retail, and that's how they make their money, is selling you an overinflated insurance plan. And the problem with many of those, I'm not going to name names, but there's many of those that have just absolute garbage coverage. For example, you've got a husband and wife going to Italy. It'll tell you have cancellation, but it doesn't include your travel companion. If I were sick and I could not go on the trip, my wife has no intentions of going to Italy alone. We both want to cancel, get our money back, and reschedule when we can both go. And that is key, is understanding the product and what it's actually covering. Do not make that assumption that when you buy it from the cruise company or your tour provider, that this is the best plan for the best price, because it's almost never is the case. They're offering you one plan from one company, and it is oftentimes one of the most expensive plans that's available on the market, because that's how they're making their money. They're getting paid from that insurance company to sell that one product.
Mark, can I say one thing?
Yep.
Sometimes, like cruise lines and travel companies, the insurance they are offering is coming from them, not an insurance company. So if they go belly up, you have really no insurance because it came from the company. That happened to Vantage.
You're exactly right.
Yes.
You have no recourse. Yeah, if they go belly up, you have no recourse. If they were to there's no legal recourse. You are, and oftentimes when you read those agreements, be careful. Sometimes when you book a cruise for, let's say, a Viking cruise, and they'll offer you cancel for any reason coverage. Are they offering you your money back with cancel for any reason, or are they just offering you a voucher? Oftentimes, and most times, and specifically Viking, they're offering you a voucher. You can cancel for any reason, but they're gonna not give you your money back. They're gonna give you a voucher to take an additional cruise. Now, what the problem I have with that as an insurance agent, this happens 2 or 3 times a year for me with my clients. Somebody calls up and says, "Look, we can't go. Somebody hit us last night on our way home from dinner. I broke my hip. I can't travel for a year. We're out. I'm going to be healing for the next year." Those vouchers are worthless to you if you have an incident like that to where you can't travel for a year. So be very mindful of, what are they offering you? Are they offering you your money back, or is it a voucher? I'm not a fan of vouchers because I've seen it happen all too often to where the voucher becomes worthless. So keep that in mind.
All right, next, thank you, Ann, for that info. Is there a time limit for travel insurance for people older than a certain age?
Not really. I mean, I'm aware of plans that will insure all the way up to 110. So, I mean, yeah, we can get coverage virtually anywhere. Yeah, I mean, I will say that I can get coverage for anywhere on the planet. Now, if you tell me you're going to Ukraine right now, that's going to be a completely different price than what if you tell me you're going to Germany. So keep that in mind. But uh, right now, the only ones that are really off the table and you have to get specific, special type of insurance: Ukraine, Russia, Afghanistan. Currently, right now, just in the last 24 hours, Iran. But those are not a real high demand type of trip right now, so that should not be an issue. But yeah, we can get coverage all around the world.
Andrea's question is, can you talk about annual travel policies versus single trip policies? And if you
Okay.
already answered one of these questions, just let me know and we'll go to the next question.
Okay. If you want my honest opinion as an insurance agent, annual plans are junk. They're riddled with exclusions. They don't do what you think that they're doing, and they're nowhere close to a trip specific one. I'll throw down a couple examples. Did you know that if you buy an annual plan today, that annual plan will not cover any trips that you have purchased or booked within longer than 30 days. I mean, you could book something yesterday, then you buy an annual plan today. That's one thing. But let's say you planned a trip in April, and now you buy an annual plan today, and you think it's going to last for the next year. Everything you booked prior to that is excluded, and it's in the fine print on page 73, which nobody reads. So also one of my main concerns is a typical annual plan limits of what you can do and where you can go. There's no annual plans that you can't take a trip that's longer than 30 days. That's going to exclude you. You're going to have issues with the amount of coverage. There's a lot of annual plans out there that have just a bare minimum, 50,000 medical and 100,000 emergency evacuation. It's not even close to what you should be traveling with. We're comparing apples and peanuts here. We're not even doing fruits and fruits. Annual plans sound like a great idea, and they are. Yeah, I don't know. Another thing that you got to deal with is you need to be taking at least 4 trips in this next coming year to even have an annual plan pay for itself. Trip specific insurance plans are going to be so much more comprehensive, have so many less exclusions, and they're so affordable to where you're going to have to take at least 4, if not 5 trips in this next coming 12 months to even have it pay for itself. So I'm not a big fan. I've had many people get burned on that and have to find out the hard way that there were so many exclusions, and then you thought it was doing something that it doesn't. Yeah, we're talking completely 2 different animals there.
Great. We have about 10 more questions, and we have about 8 more minutes, so we'll see if we can get through them all. The next one is specialty flights back to US. My daughter once required a Learjet ride in the US that was covered. What about from Europe?
If you have the right type of insurance plan, it's going to get you all the way back home. If you bought a plan from the cruise company or something, they'll give you one evacuation. They're going to get you off that boat, or they're going to take you to the hospital and to where they have you taken care of, and then it's on your own to get back home. Any type of insurance plan that I would be recommending to my clients is that's going to get you all the way back home. It gives you hospital of choice, and it gets you back to your original domicile. And that's very important to understand, to where you think you're saving $20 by buying an insurance plan on a .com, and then you have to use it and you find out that you're stuck in Europe and you've got to pay a few $1,000s. I mean, maybe 10,000 on that Learjet type of thing. That was probably a scenario where there was a broken hip or something that required them to be laid out and they could not be in a chair. Yeah, that's a very expensive flight. And if you've got the right insurance plan, it was paid for.
Mark,
Yeah.
may I?
Yep.
That was my question.
Yep.
And it was a medical evacuation. It was a full medically equipped Learjet.
Mm-hmm.
And he needed that evacuation for a serious surgery that came up, and she needed to be moved 1,000 miles quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's a very important feature with travel insurance plans, is the emergency evacuation and making sure that you've got the coverage that's going to get you back to your. I mean, we take for granted here in the States where I would say we have one of the best medical facilities on the planet. So whether you want your operation to happen in Turkey or with an American doctor, could often come down to the insurance that you have or do not have, and that you've got options whether or not your surgery is going to be performed by one of the best or not.
All
Very,
right.
very important.
Sorry. Next question, Sally. What if you have coverage for cruise? How can you get coverage for excursions bought later?
Yeah, if you bought the insurance from the cruise company, they're not going to insure your excursions. If you bought a standalone policy outside of the cruise company, it's going to cover you from doorstep to doorstep. So any plan that I would put, we have it start when you leave your house and end when you return to your house. That way you have coverage from doorstep to doorstep. Theoretically, I mean, I've seen it before to where you leave the morning of, you're on your way to the airport and somebody hits you. You had a car accident on the way to the airport. If you have the proper insurance, now the entire trip is covered because now you're delayed, whether it depended upon the scenario. Were you hurt? Was it just a fender bender? Whatever. But that car accident and your travel delay is all covered with a proper standalone insurance plan. You have it start on the day you leave your house, and on the day you return to your home, and it doesn't matter as far as, yes, exclusions are included. All your excursions are included even when you get off the boat if you buy the correct insurance plan.
All right, the next question is coming from Reed. If you can afford to lose the trip costs but want to be covered medically and for evacuation, what do you think buying a medical travel policy rather than trip cancellation to save money?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't have much at stake, or if you're not concerned about your non-refundable trip cost, we can still get a policy in there and we won't insure any of your non-refundable trip costs and still get you the bare minimum. You should have international medical coverage, emergency evacuation coverage. You'll still have trip delay, all of these lost, stolen, damaged luggage. All of those things are still built in. You just don't have any type of cancellation or interruption coverage. Absolutely. You can still get that. If that's not a concern of yours, then we don't need to insure it. It's a good question.
Next question, Colleen, you might have answered this already. When you pay for a trip with your credit card that says you have travel insurance coverage, is that sufficient?
No. It does say, if you read the certificates, their Amex has a decent one. Chase card has a decent one where it comes with, quote, travel insurance in there. It is excess. It is supplemental. It's secondary. You should not count on that to be there for you. It is intended to be excess. Now, if you're taking a $40,000 trip to Italy and your card covers 10,000 of that, if you're okay with the exclusions and the stipulations that it goes with that, sure, you could take a standalone insurance policy and insure 40,000 of that, and then let your card carry 10,000 of it. That, if you're okay with that, then there's not a problem with that. But understand that it is supplemental excess coverage. It is not primary.
I'll answer the next question from Joel. This presentation will be put onto our Ollie YouTube channel. I'm putting that in the chat now. So you have please give us at least 72 hours to get it on there. So if you missed part of this presentation today, then you will be able to have access to it at that time. So I answered Joel's question. We have time for one more question. Let me go to the next question. So if we did not answer your question on this meeting, please feel free to reach out to Mark directly with your specific question. Again, Mark, if you want to put your information in the chat, that would probably be a great place to put it. So
Do I still have my information on the screen for everybody? It is on my screen. Does everybody else still see that or no?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Please send me an email, guys. I have two ears but only one mouth, so I can only talk to one at a time. If you've got a question, yeah, shoot me an email. I'm here to help. Absolutely.
Great. So I apologize we couldn't get to all the questions. We are at time. Does anyone have a last minute take yourself off of speaker saying, I really want this question answered by Mark before we end this meeting or seminar today?
I would just like to add that the cancel for any reason is fairly expensive. And like Mark said, you only get up to 75%, right, Mark? It's not a guaranteed 75%. So it is really something for cost. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yes, having freedom to be able to say, I changed my mind. I don't want to go on this trip anymore. Loosey-goosey excuse like that. Having that type of freedom does come at a cost. You can expect that, a typical travel insurance plan, we can get full coverage anywhere from, depending upon the age, 6 to 9% of your non-refundable trip cost. You can have it fully covered. If you're looking at cancel for any reason, you can expect 10 to 13% of your it does come at a premium. That freedom does come at a premium. Absolutely.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
As it relates to medical insurance, what if you're traveling to a country with universal health care?
Universal health care, like Canada, are for Canadian citizens. If you are not a citizen of that country and paying taxes in that country, you do not apply for universal health care.
I think you are covered in Germany though, are you not?
Not to my understanding. I have had 2 clients throughout the years who went over there, had issues, and somehow, some way, I think their paperwork fell through the cracks type of thing, to where they were given a bill, they didn't submit it, and nobody hunted them down, that type of thing. But I've had a dozen others where they didn't fall through the cracks, and then of course they were hunted down by emails, phone calls, and letters, threatening letters, to make sure that they cover this. So generally speaking, if you are not a citizen of that country that has universal health care, you do not apply.
Okay, thanks.
Hmm.
All right. Well, thank you all for attending today, this travel insurance seminar. Again, thank you, Mark, for taking the time out of your day to present to our Ollie students. And thank you, Anne, for making this happen. At this time, again, we will have this recording sent out to you via email and also on our YouTube channel. You all have a great day.
All right. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
You're
And
welcome.
say hi to Dan. He's the guy that got you.
Oh, good deal. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
right
Dan
across the
Dennon.
hall.
Yeah. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, folks. Take care.